So section 3, conducting van. So now we've gone through two different things. We've gone through why we screen, right? Doubles the people that are functional. If you screen up front, you can get CTA, you can transfer people faster, you can get better care, you can change people's impact 10 to 30% better outcomes, right? We went through the neuroanatomy of van, why it makes the most sense, right? We know why you have to test for cortical symptoms. Again, you can get away if you only care about being specific with just really bad weakness, right? But you don't need a scale for that. You're just, if you're really bad, right? But if you want to pick up that mild weakness with lots of cortical symptoms, those people that go into collateral failure, meaning I look good now, but in 5 hours, my National Institute of Health stroke scale goes from 5 or 6 or 7 up to 15 or 20, then you do need to test for cortical symptoms. And we went over the neuroanatomy about why it makes sense, right? Now the last thing is how to conduct van and fast van. Fast van is our sister score out of Canada, which is very powerful. The only difference is because it's not as complete, you can't localize with it, but I think for the field it's beautiful. And so we'll go through the exam. And so for fast van, all you're looking is for fast positive, face, arm, speech. So either their face is weak, arm is weak, or they can't talk, okay? For van, we're looking for unilateral arm weakness, which we think is more powerful, right? If you have any unilateral arm weakness, then you test the rest. If you have no arm weakness, you're done. 10 seconds, you're van negative. No weakness, done in 10 seconds, very powerful. Now, once they're either fast positive, if you're using fast van, or they have unilateral arm weakness, right? Then you would test for vision, aphasia, neglect. And just for teaching purposes, in general, lots of the other scales, even if you have minor drift, they don't count it. They only want severe weakness where the arm touches, okay? And so if that's, if you want to be more specific and less sensitive, you can just do the same thing. And basically Act Fast out of Australia, they're using the same exact thing. They're using arm as the triage point. So they're copying van exactly in a sense, but they use severe arm weakness where the arm comes down in less than 10 seconds, okay? And so if that's what you want to do, that's fine too. And so you can just call it severe van because you want to be more specific, and you're okay with missing all those people that go into collateral failure because you think that you have more time and advanced imaging at your primary stroke centers. So the first thing is vision. So vision, the first thing we test is gaze. Make sure their eyes aren't forced to the right or left. Make sure they can follow all the way to the right, all the way to the left. And then the next thing is testing their peripheral vision. Look at my nose. How many fingers? 2 on the right, 1 on the left, and that's it. Make sure that they can see both sides. And here's a little tip, because I like giving tips, because I want you to be perfect. Anybody out there, planet Earth, everybody knows how to localize now. So usually you gaze away from weakness because you can't bear to look at how weak you are, okay? So the gaze preference is towards the good side. See that, everybody? Gaze preference towards the good side. But the vision loss is also on the bad side, so you don't even want to see it. I don't even want to see the fact that I can't move half my body. So you put up 2, nope, they can't see that. 1, and even if they're sleepy, they won't blink on this side, okay? So that's super powerful right there. Now you know how to localize, too easy, right? And so, so now you know for vision, gaze or vision loss, you can't bear to look at your weak side, and so the gaze is forced towards the good side, and the vision loss is towards the bad side as well because you don't want to see it. So that's the first thing and fast van, all they test is gaze, not the visual field. And it's fine because vision, we test 2 things, the gaze plus the visual field. Next is aphasia. Aphasia is the ability to produce speech and the ability to understand. So step 1 is name 2 objects. What's this? Watch. What's this? Pen. Okay, and that's all fast van does, which is fine because if you don't understand, you usually can't name, but if you want to localize is superior M2, inferior M2, you can't. And so the second thing we do for full van is follow 2 commands. Close your eyes and make a fist. And that's it. And so that's aphasia. And aphasia is usually with right-sided weakness. So the right side is usually weak, okay? Next is neglect. So neglect is usually with what? With left-sided weakness. And how we test it and how fast Van tests it as well is basically we have you close your eyes and then we touch the right side. You tell us right side, then left, and then we touch both sides. And then when we touch both sides, you will only tell us right, even though we touched both sides. And another way that you can tell people are having neglect is, they'll deny the fact that they can't move the left side of their body. No, I'm not having a stroke. There's nothing wrong with me. And their arm's not moving. And that's basically all it is. So how do you score Van? Van is either Van positive or Van negative. Basically, for the full Van, you have to have some sort of unilateral arm weakness plus any cortical symptom that we went over. If you have no weakness, you're Van negative. If you have no cortical symptom, you're Van negative. So Van positive means what? You have to have a cortical symptom. And then if, what's really cool is you can actually modify Van to make it any scale that you want. And for instance, there's the SAVE scale, okay, which you have to have unilateral arm weakness plus vision loss plus aphasia or slurred speech and eyes forced over, right? And so you can easily do that. So you can have vision, aphasia, neglect, and then if you have anything in vision, gaze or vision loss, +1, and then if you have aphasia or neglect with it, +2. So if you have two cortical symptoms, either vision plus aphasia or vision plus neglect, that's exactly the same thing as the SAVE scale. And so this is what's powerful. Once you learn Van, you can do any scale you want because Van is the only complete cortical symptom scale out there, right? And it localizes. So you can even watch this, use whichever scale you want, and you can actually apply Van methodology to any scale out there, which is what's so powerful about this, So that's it. And here's a little example of our screening sheet out in the field. It says, fast negative, fast positive, arm weakness, yes or no. If there's no weakness, you're done. If there is, then you test for the Van symptoms. And here's our sister scale out of Canada, same thing, but they don't test the visual fields and they don't have you say, follow commands, close eyes, make fists. But otherwise, it's the same thing. So summary of Van. Are they fast positive for fast Van, or do they have unilateral arm weakness, and then you test the cortical symptoms? Now, Van 2.0, this version, we moved the gaze to vision because people said in the NIH stroke scale, items 2 and 3, gaze and vision, are right next to each other, like visual field cuts, and we felt it makes more sense. So I'm like, okay, you know what? Thank you for getting back to us and for letting us know that's a better way. So Van 2.0, that's why we have gaze and vision under and visual field cut under vision, aphasia alone and neglect alone. It also allows you to localize because aphasia is with right-sided weakness and neglect is with left-sided weakness. Very powerful. Your feedback is greatly appreciated. So I want to give this an example because this is very powerful. So here's a patient that I got called on. They're like, Mo, this patient has aphasia, forced gaze, and arm weakness. They're Van positive, but the radiologist read the CTA as normal. I'm like, okay, is there neglect? No, there's no neglect, so there's nothing in the back of the brain. Okay, are they able to follow commands? Yes, they're following commands. They'll show me 2 fingers. They'll close their eyes, okay, and do they have a visual field cut? No, not really, just the gaze preference. Okay, well then guess what? I put it into the Van app and it showed us what? Superior M2. And you see right here, see that? Superior M2. You see, they missed it on CTA, but you look at the angiogram, I pulled out the clot, the patient is back to normal. NIH stroke scale of 17 to 20, back to normal, and NIH stroke scale of 0. Here's another patient, right? And this patient was race negative, LA motor scale, fast ED, C-stat, all these negative. NIH stroke scale of 6, they had sensory neglect, visual field cut, and mild arm drift. And you can see, again, radiology read it as negative, but you can see where it localizes to on the apps, inferior M2, and look at it right there. That's exactly where it is. And there's a clot, we pulled it out and the patient's symptoms all resolved, NIH stroke scale of 0. I think this is good enough. I think now if you want to take the VAN exam, you can. The rest of this, the rest of the other sections are really more to give you more knowledge about what's going on in the field, and you know, more evidence for using VAN, which is in reality saying use real neuroanatomy, not some made up scales or numbers, right? Communicate to me. Severe weakness, these are the cortical symptoms. Minor weakness, these are the cortical symptoms. A much more powerful way to communicate than arbitrary numbers.